I don't want you things to take my soul. You demons want to take my soul away. I don't let you demons steal my soul. Why am I here? I just want to talk to my mom and dad. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on?
Aiden Fushi, the Florida teenager who was set to go on trial for the tragic 2021 murder of 13-year-old Tristan Bailey, took a different course. Instead of facing a trial, he pleaded guilty to first-degree murder for the fatal stabbing of the young girl. At the time of the murder, Fucci was just 14 years old. He was charged as an adult with first-degree murder after Tristan, a 13-year-old cheerleader, was discovered lifeless in the woods near her home on Mother's Day in 2021. Tristan's parents had reported her missing, and her body was found on May 9, 2021. The extent of the brutality was truly heartbreaking. Tristan had endured a staggering 114 stab wounds, with at least 49 of them being defensive wounds on her hands, arms, and head.
A lot of people reaching out online, even finding Bailey on TikTok, Instagram, and on social media, and saying that they really hope that justice is served. Of course,
Following the discovery, Fucci was swiftly apprehended on May 10, 2021. During the course of the investigation, he reportedly made several admissions of guilt, as documented in his arrest report. Then, in February 2023, right before the commencement of jury selection, Fucci altered his plea to guilty. Finally, on Friday, March 24, Judge Lee Smith sentenced Fucci to life in prison.
Mr. Fucci, having entered a plea of guilty to the crime of first-degree murder, I adjudicate you guilty of the premeditated first-degree murder of Tristan Bailey. I sentence you to life in prison.
On May 23, 2021, Cameron Herron was driving his Ford Mustang at an extremely high speed of 102 miles per hour. He was trying to race his friend, John Barino, to the gym. As they approached Bayshore Boulevard, tragedy struck. Jessica Reisinger was crossing the road with her baby in a walker. In an effort to avoid colliding with John's car, Cameron swerved, but tragically, he ended up hitting Jessica and her baby, causing fatal injuries. Subsequently, Cameron, along with his brother Tristan and John, faced legal consequences and were arrested on charges of vehicular homicide. Following this heartbreaking incident, legal proceedings unfolded. Both Cameron Herron and John Barino eventually pleaded guilty to the charges. However, despite efforts by Cameron's legal team to appeal and reduce his sentence, they were not successful. Given Cameron's direct involvement in causing the accident, he received a 24-year prison sentence.
Guilty, sentenced him to 9 years in Florida State Prison. On count 2, same charge, court will adjudicate the defendant guilty, sentence him to 15 years Florida State Prison, and that'll run consecutive to count 1, for a total of 24 years Florida State Prison.
The reported ringleader and killer in a 2010 burglary that ended in the murder of 81-year-old Dorothy Session was resentenced to life in prison. David Moses received his sentence following Judge Charles Bremer determining that Moses has done nothing to rehabilitate himself since he was originally sentenced in October 2012. Moses was 17 at the time of the incident when he entered Sessions' home in Camino Sierra, thinking it was empty. Upon finding Session home, Moses hit her, leaving Session bleeding on the floor. Elaine Covert, Sessions' daughter, spoke to the impact that her murder has had on the entire family. A man who as a teenager fatally injured an 81-year-old woman during a burglary was resentenced Wednesday to life in prison without the possibility of parole in a hearing where the victim's family described the profound impact her death has had. Mackenzie Sharilla's life took a tragic turn in 2022 when a high-speed car crash in Strongsville, Ohio thrust her into the spotlight. At just 19 years old, she found herself behind the wheel of a vehicle hurtling at a startling 100 miles per hour, ultimately colliding with a building during the early hours of dawn. The consequences of this devastating incident were heart-wrenching, claiming the lives of her boyfriend Dominic Russo, 20, and their friend Davian Flanagan, 19. 2 weeks before Mackenzie Sherilla deliberately plowed her car into a brick building, instantly killing her boyfriend and his friend, the then 17-year-old had threatened to cause a crash during a heated argument with Russo. The verbal fight dissolved, and eventually, Russo got out of the vehicle and was picked up by a friend. But in the early morning hours of 31 July 2022, Sherilla carried out her threats, pushing the accelerator at 100 miles per hour until her 2018 Toyota Camry became completely totaled. During the trial, the judge made scathing remarks condemning the teen's actions.
There's a very good likelihood, Mackenzie, that you will spend the rest of your life in prison. That won't be up to me. That will be up to the parole board, and that will be up to you to a great extent. So she's sentenced on count 2, the murder of Davian Flanagan, 15 years to life. She's sentenced on count 1, the murder of Dominic Russo, 15 years to life, to be served concurrent to each other, with credit for time served.
Jose Torres and Kyla Norton, members of the white supremacist group Respect the Flag, were convicted of making terroristic threats and violating the state's street gang terrorism law. The couple pulled up to an 8-year-old African-American child's birthday party in Douglasville as part of a racist spree by Respect the Flag in Douglas and Paulding counties, west of Atlanta. They arrived in a truck displaying the Confederate flag, shouted racial slurs at the attendees, and pulled out a shotgun threatening to kill the people there. The couple were sentenced 13 and 6 years in prison, respectively, for joining a group of Confederate flag supporters who in 2015 drove around a small Georgia community threatening people, including a gathering of African Americans.
Not me. That is not me. That's not him. I would never walk up to you and say those words to you. I'm so